Do you know what it's like to survive? 12 months in a place where stepping outside could mean death. No warmth, no escape, just you, the cold, and your will to live. This place was never meant for humans. One step beyond this line, and survival ends. He is not immune, not protected, just human, standing at the edge of death. Outside that door, the air destroys your lungs in seconds. Leaving is not escape, leaving is death. The moment the door closed, time stopped being counted in days. It began counting him. No rescue is coming. No voice will answer back for the next 12 months. This is the world. Every breath must be earned. Every mistake is permanent. Survival here isn't bravery, it's discipline. This place was never built for comfort. It was built to keep humans alive. Just barely. Miles of steel, empty corridors, no voices, no movement. Isolation here isn't emotional, it's physical. Beyond these walls, the air turns lethal in seconds. Lungs collapse. Blood oxygen crashes. Leaving is not escape, it's execution. There is no alarm, no countdown. One mistake is enough. The rule is simple. The door only opens once. Every breath is borrowed. Every tank is finite. Survival here isn't about strength. It's about control. Calories decide how long a body lasts.
3, 4,
not days,
5,
not
6,
willpower.
7,
Hunger is slow,
8,
and it never
9.
negotiates.
That's all.
There is no signal reaching the outside. No incoming voice, no help on the way. Survival here is completely unsupervised. Time becomes visible. Not on a clock, on the walls. Each mark is proof that he's still alive. Routine replaces hope. Movements become precise. Emotion wastes energy. Discipline keeps him functional. Silence stretches longer than fear. No sound, no distraction. Just the body and the mind. Without noise, the brain turns inward. The first meal isn't about hunger. It's about measuring loss. Every bite reduces tomorrow. Eating becomes a calculation. No conversation, no shared time. Humans evolved to eat together. Alone, even food feels heavy. Cold steals energy without warning. Fingers slow, muscles tighten. The body burns fuel, just to stay still. Sleep doesn't arrive gently. It fragments, wakes, repeat. Rest becomes shallow, and recovery incomplete. The first meal isn't about hunger. It's about measuring loss. Every bite reduces tomorrow. Eating becomes a calculation. Energy in, survival out. No conversation. Days lose their names here. There's no Monday, no Friday. Only lines carved into steel. Each mark means he stayed alive. Not that anything improved. Time doesn't heal him. It only moves forward. The body sacrifices weight first. Fat disappears quietly. Then strength begins to fade. Hunger doesn't shout. It waits. Constant, controlled, slowly rewriting what the body can do. Cold doesn't arrive all at once. It settles into the body. Joints stiffen. Fingers lose precision. Air is no longer automatic. It's measured, monitored, calculated. Every breath taken today reduces the margin for tomorrow. Food becomes a calculation. Portions shrink by design. Eating is no longer about hunger. It's about extending time. Every cut is a decision against the future. Hunger doesn't arrive suddenly. It builds in layers. First distraction, then weakness. Finally, the constant awareness of what isn't there. Without change, time stretches. Minutes feel longer than hours. The mind searches for movement, for anything to break the stillness. This is where isolation starts pressing back. Muscles weaken without warning. Strength leaves quietly. The body resists, not failure, but exhaustion. Machines don't panic, they simply stop working. And in a place like this, failure arrives quietly and without mercy. There is no alarm, no warning, only the slow realization that systems are wearing down. Energy becomes something he negotiates with. Because every adjustment costs time, heat, or oxygen, and even light has to be earned. Outside, the environment grows louder. Not angry, not cruel, just completely indifferent to whether a human exists inside it or not. Inside the shelter, he listens to the walls and the structure around him. Because metal speaks before it breaks, and survival depends on noticing the smallest change. Days lose their names and turn into scratches on steel, simple marks that prove time is still passing even when it feels frozen. Breathing is no longer something the body does on its own. It becomes measured, deliberate, controlled,
We're here.
a
We can
reminder
hear
that
you.
nothing here is automatic anymore. A sudden burst of radio static cuts through the silence, turning noise into a brief moment of hope, then dissolving back into nothing, leaving the quiet heavier than before. The exit never moves, but the thought of leaving returns again and again, testing discipline in ways cold never could. The body begins to resist in subtle ways. Stiffness, weakness, trembling muscles, not dramatic, not loud, just constant. And when nothing happens for a long time, when the storm fades and returns and the systems hold but weaken, the waiting itself becomes the hardest thing to endure. Night deepens not suddenly, but gradually as light withdraws and shadows stretch longer across the shelter. The temperature continues to fall, slow enough to ignore at first, dangerous enough to matter later. Moisture in the air no longer fades, it freezes, turning every breath into evidence of how fragile warmth really is. The structure responds with quiet sounds, metal tightening, beams adjusting, frost creeping where it wasn't before. He conserves what little energy remains, shutting off anything unnecessary, choosing darkness over risk. Focus becomes something he has to rebuild again and again, closing his eyes briefly just to keep his thoughts aligned. Outside, distant movement. In the storm reminds him how small this shelter is against the landscape. He checks every seal, every edge, knowing that a gap no wider than a finger could end everything. Then comes the waiting, still, deliberate, controlled, wrapped in layers,
Stay out for long.
listening for changes that may never come.
It'll give us time.
The night stretches on without promise or relief, not testing strength but patience, as time itself becomes the final pressure. Hours pass without markers, and sleep never fully arrives. Survival narrows to one task. Endure until morning if morning still exists. The night stretches longer than any night should, heavy and unbroken, pressing against the shelter like a weight that refuses to lift. Outside, the world finally grows quiet. Not from safety, but from exhaustion, as if even the storm has spent itself. Inside, he rises slowly, stiffness locking every movement into place. Each step measured to conserve what little strength remains. Time no longer feels like hours or days. It becomes something mechanical, scratched into metal, checked compulsively, feared more than the cold itself. He tests the systems again, coaxing weak power from frozen circuits, watching faint lights flicker just long enough to offer false reassurance. Beyond the reinforced walls, the frozen world lies calm and deceptive, smooth and endless, inviting in its silence. He listens, not just with his ears, but with his entire body, tracking every vibration, every shift in pressure, every sound that might signal failure. Gear is tightened one last time, gloves adjusted, routines repeated not for comfort but for control. He returns to the window, drawn back to the boundary as if gravity itself lives beyond it, staring into a place that promises instant death disguised as peace. His breath slows, his focus sharpens, and when he finally steps closer to the marked line, standing exactly where survival still exists and destruction begins, the choice is no longer about fear. It's about whether the human body, pushed to its final edge, can still obey the mind. From the moment he reaches the line, time seems to compress. Every sound fades except his own breath, thick and controlled, fogging the air as he stands at the very edge of a choice that has been building for months. The door in front of him is no longer just metal and seals. It is an idea, a promise and a threat all at once. His hand finds the handle, not with urgency but with precision, as if even panic has learned restraint here. Somewhere behind him, a muted system counts and warns, blinking patiently, indifferent to courage or doubt. In the distorted reflection of the steel walls, his face looks older than it should, carved by cold silence, and time measured one breath at a time. Outside, the wind rises again, violent and unforgiving, reminding him why this boundary exists at all. His grip tightens, then steadies. His eyes lock forward, unblinking, not searching for escape, but confronting the cost of it. The alarms dim, the shelter holds, and the door opens just enough to let the world beyond announce itself. White, endless, lethal. He does not cross. Instead, he releases the handle, slowly, deliberately, as if setting down a weight he has carried since the first day. The seal closes, frost settles, and the noise of the outside world is cut away. In the quiet that follows, his breathing evens out, no longer counted in fear but in discipline. Light stabilizes, shadows retreat, and for the first time in a long while, the space feels less like a trap and more like a decision honored. He sits, calm but alert, knowing survival here was never about leaving. It was about enduring, staying when every instinct demanded escape, and choosing to live within limits that were never meant to be tested. Let alone survived, he remains still, not because the danger is gone, but because he understands it now. This place did not break him. It revealed what he could carry without collapsing. By this point, survival is no longer driven by panic or urgency, but by deliberate awareness. He pauses, standing still in the shelter, understanding that every decision now carries weight not because of danger, but because of time. Sitting down, he studies his frost-covered hands.
Keep track of the rations.
Noticing how the cold has changed them, how
Already
restraint
on
and
it.
repetition have replaced instinct. The day unfolds through routine rather than drama. Supplies are stacked carefully. Water is checked, movements are measured and efficient. He looks out through the small window, watching the frozen world remain indifferent yet watchful, reminding him that nature does not threaten, it simply exists. Inside, he adjusts the light, softening the harshness of the space, reclaiming a sense of control over something small but meaningful. Food is prepared with precision, not hunger, each portion calculated as an investment in another day. A moment of stillness follows, eyes closed, breath slow, allowing the mind to reset in a place where noise no longer exists. He tends to his gear, tightening and cleaning, not because it is failing, but because neglect is the first step toward loss. Every seal and edge of the shelter is inspected again, habit now as vital as warmth. Time is marked quietly on the wall, not to count how long he has been here, but to prove that he is still moving forward. He presses his hand against the cold glass once more, feeling the separation between safety and the vast frozen silence beyond. Inside, he arranges his few belongings, creating order where chaos once lived. Mental endurance replaces physical strain, slow breathing, focused thought, small rituals to keep the mind intact. Outside, daylight fades without ceremony, the world continuing its rhythm whether he watches or not. As darkness settles, he sits calmly, hands folded, no longer waiting for rescue or change, but steady in his resolve. In the final quiet, the shelter glows softly against the endless cold, a small human presence holding its ground, not in defiance, but in quiet, enduring triumph. What you just watched could happen sooner than we think. If you want to explore more real, thought-provoking stories like this, make sure you subscribe and watch for more.